Welcome back, everyone, to the State Farm Analyst Zone. PSG may be out of Worlds 2020, but they finished on a high note. A huge upset versus JDG Gaming, and this means that we'll have no tiebreaker games today because Dom1 are locked in first and JDG are locked in second. Now, a huge congratulations to PSG, and it actually gives us a fantastic window to talk about the level ones we've been hearing so much about. And yeah, we said it already at the countdown how important they have been, but now we have a tangible example. And there's a fun stat. In 2019, in all of group stage, there were only 8 kills at 2.30 minutes in the game. Now there are already 15.
Jesus.
Amazing.
That is a difference.
Is it that there are so many level ones, and what makes it so possible at this World Championship?
I think it's mainly due to the jungle pool. I think the jungle pool has become really farm-centric, but the whole jungle pool also has the ability to do something level 1. We think about the Lilia that wants to invade the enemy race, for example. We think about the Grace that can dash over wards and can basically invade an enemy jungler and 1v1 him at any point. So there are a lot of tools to use, and the goal of that is obviously to get the jungler ahead and have him snowball from that. Because if you get a farm advantage, if you hit level 2, level 3, the level spikes earlier, you're obviously going to be able to farm faster. So that snowballs and keeps on snowballing throughout the game.
And we've seen that those snowballs have decided so many of these games, as they did in this one too. So let's pull up the draft. And can you tell me, when we look at the compositions from both sides, what urged them to go for something level 1, as we saw from both sides, in fact, in this one?
Yeah, so for blue side, it is the Karma Ezreal bot lane. So usually when you have Karma Ezreal, you want to establish a level 1 into the enemy lane or into the enemy side of the lane. So you basically want to have a bush positioning where you basically are able to push up the lane from level 1 on. So that gives you leverage in the lane and gives you the ability to invade the enemy jungle continuously. So that in itself is really important for the Karma Ezreal. So from the other side, we obviously have Reed coming in. They know what the enemy wants to do. The Karma is really specific in that regard, so they're going to counter it, and that's what we saw level 1.
Okay, so let's pull up the Telestrator clip. Yeah, if you've been watching since the beginning, it's a rematch. Maurice got owned by the Telestrator at the beginning of the day, but this is round 2.
We're going to get him.
Go and get him.
We're going to get them this time. So as we see here, as we press the play button, we see the level 1 setup. So PSG obviously anticipates this level 1 play coming in. We see JDG almost like looping around, trying to get a read on what's happening here too. And they feel relatively safe as they see the Caitlyn walking away. So this 4-man trap or 3-man trap is actually really surprising because they see the Caitlyn walking upwards. So that is something that you wouldn't necessarily see in normal level 1 setup. So it's really well played by PSG. And now, shortly pause to analyze the status right now. So on the bottom lane, we now see Ezreal and Karma having the push coming in, and a ward here being placed after level 1 by PSG basically anticipates, again, like a movement from JDG. So we have this back and forth coming in. And what I like about River right here is that he's shying away from the situation, but he's really well aware of what he has to do. So he waits for his bot lane to come around. Kaiwing and Unified basically loop around, try to get a position on Kanavi, and now we pause again. And now we can have to look at the minimap basically to a certain extent, where we now see where Syndra is basically walking up before Galio can even move. So that creates a 4v3 situation at the own blue buff, and that basically gives them the ability to make this level 1 play happen and really work out for them, because it looked pretty risky when Kaiwing flashed in.
It did, and I like this example specifically because we have kind of 2 parts. And I asked you before this, what is usually the goal? But there can be different goals to different level 1s or level 2s. And we saw the first one was for the lane state, right? To make sure that your matchup there goes better. And the second one, the follow-up, was then to make sure that the jungle also got ahead. And that's pretty advanced stuff.
So I think the level 2 invade was basically to support the already established lane status and to basically have that keep going. But also Grace into Kindred, like if you make something happen level 2, Kindred does not have access to E yet. So at that point, you kind of win the 1v1 to a certain extent, and you have a good farm ability too. And you usually would expect a Kindred to actually go for red and then go for the golems instead of going for blue buff instantly. So I think there were a lot of moving pieces at the same time. I do think the invade was warranted. I think the result was a bit worse than I anticipated.
That was pretty crazy, I guess. 3 kills going over to PSG, great snowball. And it's also like, you can think about everything, know all the summoner spells that are up, know everything you have to do, but in the moment, you still have to hit your skill shots and make it happen, and that doesn't always happen.
Especially in the early game, it's so important. Like, you can't get away with any missed skill shots. The execution has to be really well done. So that's why we see some teams hesitate to actually make level 1 plays happen, because it requires so much coordination and so much security within your own play. So if you mess up just a little bit, you suddenly lose a level 1, and that's what's 500 gold in the early game, for example. That is like basically like 2 to 3K gold difference later on in the game. So always be careful when you do something like that.
Okay, wise words from Amazing. Always be careful when you do your level 1. They weren't, and it paid off. Great stuff by PSG. Humongous upset for them, and PSG will return to the stage for their last game of Worlds 2020 as they take on Rogue from the LEC.